Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, a very special welcome to you. Go on, get cozy. Dim the lights, pull that blanket right up to your chin, and let the outside world just melt away. Tonight, we're not journeying to bustling battlefields or glittering throne rooms, but to a place far, far more intimate. We're going to step into the quiet, patient world of ancient shepherds, those silent guardians of sustenance, whose days unfolded under vast, indifferent skies. A world of subtle languages, unseen wisdom, and a profound connection to the earth that your history class never told you any of this about. Imagine, if you will, the slow, cool unfurling of dawn across an ancient hillside. The world is not yet loud with human bustle, but rather hums with the subtle overture of waking nature. For the shepherd, curled perhaps in a rough wool cloak against the dew-soaked earth, or within the meager shelter of a temporary lean-to, this hour is not merely the start of a day, but the reawakening of a constant vigilance, an unbroken thread of guardianship stretching back through countless generations. The first stirrings are not his own, but those of the flock. A soft bleat, a shifting of weight among the huddled forms, the gentle nudge of a lamb against its mother. He might feel the chill air on his face, the dampness seeping through the fabric of his tunic, a sensation as familiar and unremarkable as the beating of his own heart. His eyes, though still heavy with sleep, would already be scanning the indistinct shapes, counting without conscious effort, a silent inventory confirming the night's peace. A quick glance uphill, then down, a habitual movement almost unconscious, checking for any disturbance before the full light arrives. The tools of his trade are simple, direct extensions of his being. A crook, smooth and worn from years of handling, its curve designed for guiding, and occasionally rescuing a stray lamb from a thorny bush or a shallow crevice. Perhaps a sling for warding off opportunistic predators, or signaling across a distant valley with a well-aimed stone, a skill honed over years of practice. And always the loyal companion at his side, the dog, whose senses are sharper, whose patience is perhaps even greater than his own. This dog, often an extension of the shepherd's will, understands the subtle language of glances and gestures, a silent pact forged in shared duties and endless hours together. The dog might rise with a quiet stretch, shaking off the night's cold, its gaze already fixed on the flock, anticipating the day's first movements. His breakfast, if any, piece of hard bread, perhaps a handful of dried fruit or some cheese, carefully preserved from days past. These are not meals to be savored, but fuel for the long hours ahead, sustenance to keep the body moving, the mind alert. He might chew slowly, thoughtfully, watching the mist lift from the valley below, feeling the sun's first warmth on his skin. A small, quickly built fire, fueled by dried twigs and scrub, might send a thin plume of smoke curling upwards, its aroma mingling with the scent of damp earth and sheep. A primal perfume of existence that signifies the beginning of another day, another watch. The air begins to lighten, turning from deep indigo to soft gray, then to the pale pinks and oranges that herald the sun's full ascent. The sounds of the hillside shift. The nocturnal rustlings give way to the chirping of early birds, the buzzing of insects beginning their daily rounds. The flock, sensing the change, begins to stir more purposefully. A low murmur of anticipation rippling through the huddled forms. The shepherd rises, stretching slowly, feeling the stiffness in his joints from the cold night. But his movements are economical, practiced. He might pull his cloak tighter, or adjust the simple leather thongs that hold his tunic in place. His first task is often to assess the day's prospects, not with instruments or written reports, but with an intuition honed by generations of observation. He notes the quality of the air, the direction of the wind, the lingering dew on the grass. Are there dark clouds gathering on the horizon, promising a sudden storm that will send the flock scrambling for shelter? Or is the sky clear and vast, hinting at a long, hot day that will require moving to higher, cooler pastures? These subtle signs are his almanac, his forecast, providing the framework for the decisions he will make in the quiet hours ahead. The sun crests the distant ridge, casting long shadows across the land, and the day, for the ancient shepherd, truly begins. As the sun climbs higher, casting longer shadows that gradually shorten and then lengthen again, the day settles into its patient rhythm. The flock begins to move, a living tapestry of wool and slow movement, grazing across the designated pastures. The shepherd walks with them, never far, his presence a constant, comforting weight. He reads the land with an intimacy that modern eyes can barely comprehend, understanding precisely which plants are palatable for his charges, where the most reliable water sources lie, even in dry seasons, and where the safest, most sheltered ground can be found should the weather turn. Unexpectedly, the the subtle language between shepherd and flock is almost entirely one of observation and reaction, a constant, unspoken dialogue played out against the vastness of the landscape. A change in the wind's direction, a sudden rustle in a distant copse of trees, a particular anxious bleat from a ewe, each is noted, assessed in a quiet moment, and responded to with a shift in pace, a gentle call, or a repositioning of himself. He knows individual animals within his charge, not just as part of a collective, but recognizing their distinct personalities, their particular habits, their unique vulnerabilities. A lame lamb that requires a slower pace, a heavily pregnant ewe needing extra protection, or a persistent wanderer with a penchant for straying from the main group. Each of these necessitates individual attention within the larger context of the collective flock. His days are often profoundly solitary. The long stretches of quiet broken only by the familiar bleating of the sheep, perhaps the distant, territorial call of a bird, or the gentle, ceaseless whisper of the wind as it moves through the tall grasses. Yet he is never truly alone in the deepest sense, for he is deeply, intrinsically embedded within the larger ecosystem of his immediate environment. The gathering clouds speak to him of impending rain, their hues and shapes foretelling its intensity. The flight patterns of certain birds can warn of subtle changes in the weather, while the shifting scent of the air might signal the presence of unwelcome visitors. Both the four-legged kind that threaten his flock, and perhaps the human kind that might pose other dangers. In these quiet, unhurried hours, he might mend a section of an old fence that has succumbed to the elements, or perhaps repair his sandals with practiced, calloused hands. Occasionally, he might carve a small object from a piece of wood he found, or perhaps play a simple, haunting melody on a reed pipe fashioned from a hollow stem. These are quiet tasks, performed with unhurried hands, and a mind that is allowed to drift, to observe, to simply be present within the moment. His world is not one of frantic schedules or demanding deadlines, but rather a world governed by slow, inexorable cycles and enduring, ancient patterns. He is a part of this unfolding, a mindful observer and a gentle guardian, his entire existence intertwined, almost indistinguishably, with the lives of his flock and the very land itself. As the last sliver of daylight fades, painting the western sky in deepening hues of orange and violet, the shepherd's vigil continues, his role subtly shifting from the day watcher, scanning the horizon for straying lambs, to the night guardian, attuned to the rustles and whispers of the encroaching darkness. The flock, sensing the chill in the air, gathers more closely, penned perhaps within a simple, quickly erected enclosure of woven branches or portable netting, or perhaps simply huddled together for the shared warmth and security of numbers, a living, breathing blanket against the growing cold. The air itself grows crisper, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant wood smoke. And then, one by one, the stars begin to prick through the velvet blackness, a slow, silent revelation. This vast, spangled dome above him is not merely a beautiful spectacle, but an ancient, living map spread across the heavens. A celestial clock, a calendar, and a compass, all rolled into one. For countless generations, stretching back into the mist of forgotten time, these distant pinpricks of light have guided humanity. And for the shepherd, they are an intimate, utterly vital part of his world. He knows the constellations not as abstract patterns from a dusty old book, but as familiar markers, trusted guides. The rising of a particular star cluster might signal the imminent change of seasons, whispering of the approaching time for lambing, or perhaps marking the opportune moment for shearing the heavy winter wool from his charges. The moon, too, in its cyclical phases, dictates not only the brightness of his nights, illuminating the path or casting long, dancing shadows, but also, in its subtle gravitational pull, influences the tides, which in turn might affect the temperament of the land, the growth of certain forage, or even the movements of unseen creatures. This profound wisdom is not something he has learned from scrolls or learned treatises, but rather it is etched into his very being through direct, unbroken observation, passed down through the quiet example of elders, across countless, silent nights spent beneath the same, unchanging sky. The constant, ever-present threat of predators, a low hum of anxiety, even in the brightest day, becomes significantly more pronounced under the deep cover of darkness. A small fire, kept deliberately low to avoid drawing undue attention, while still offering a measure of comfort, crackles softly nearby, a flickering beacon of warmth and light against the vast, encompassing unknown. His ever-vigilant dog, a silent extension of his own senses, remains alert, its ears constantly swiveling, catching every faint sound. A low, almost imperceptible growl, or a sudden, sharp prick of an ear, is often the first, subtle signal of unseen movement in the periphery, a shadow that is perhaps just a shadow, or perhaps something more. Sleep, when finally it comes, is often light, easily broken by the slightest disturbance. A necessary but grudging concession to the body's insistent demands. Never a deep, forgetful slumber. The shepherd's entire year, in truth, is one of constant, rhythmic movement, a slow, deliberate dance with the turning seasons. This practice, known as transhumance, the seasonal migration of livestock, would see him and his flock journeying across vast, often challenging distances. From the milder lowland pastures during the deep winter months, they would slowly ascend towards the cooler, richer mountain meadows in the warmth of summer, always following the availability of fresh graze and water, ever chasing the perfect conditions for his flock. This intricate, vital knowledge was not to be found on any printed map, but was a deep, inherited understanding, passed down faithfully through families and generations. A living map woven from countless memories, cherished landmarks, the subtle shifts in climate and vegetation, and an instinctive understanding of the land's deepest rhythms. His life, in its profound simplicity, is one of deep, abiding connection to the earth beneath his feet, to the animals entrusted to his care, and to the grand, cosmic rhythms that unfailingly govern all life. He is, in essence, a silent guardian, a keeper of sustenance, his quiet presence a testament to an enduring way of life, where time is measured not in the frantic ticking of minutes or the hurried rush of hours, but in the slow, majestic unfolding of seasons, the consistent rise and fall of the sun, and the patient, watchful gaze cast across ancient, silent lands.